Good evening and welcome to tonight's Guzzling Gourmet sensation. It's always a sensation, isn't it? Alright, well tonight I wanted to actually be Indonesian. Well, I wanted to cook Indonesian and I found a recipe, but the more I delved into it, actually I'm not sure this is Indonesian. It's probably more Chinese, but it doesn't matter. Okay, not had this before. I've had this beer before. A bit flat, this one. Anyway, tonight we're going to have a little side order of some basmati rice, which we're going to cook in the microwave. But the main actual course, which we've got all the ingredients spread out here for, is green peppercorn chicken with crispy basil. But before we do anything else, we have a beer. But we've got some dried green peppercorns. You can buy them in tins in brine. If you've got them like that, we've got to strain them off. But because these are the dried ones, I need to soak them, okay, for at least 30 minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to get them soaking now. So I've actually got, let me just double check, 50 grams of green peppercorns in there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to shove them into that bowl and I'm going to add some water and let them soak. And then we'll start, well, I'll let you know the other ingredients we're going to need and we're going to start preparing them and we can crack on with the evening. Cheers. Right, so for tonight you're going to need a wok or a saucepan, but obviously you should use a wok, so I've got my wok here. Been a long time since I've used my wok in one of these, but anyway, wok on. Alright, so you want that. You're going to need quite a bit of oil because we need to fry some basil leaves and fry up the chicken. You're going to need chicken, and of course it has to be the Tesco special chicken, the 3-breasted one. Alright. If you just want a breast between you, you know, one per person, you're buggered. Tesco only do 3-breasted chicken. Alright? So, you want some chicken. You're going to want some basil leaves. Got some freshly picked basil leaves. I know they're freshly picked because they couldn't supply them in a bag. They came in a pot and I picked them off just now. So what we're going to do is we're going to deep fry these to make them crispy. We're going to want quite a lot of corn flour, okay, 160 grams of corn flour, onion, some garlic, an egg white, about quarter of a teaspoon of ground white pepper, bit of water, and then we're going to want some sesame oil, some soy sauce. Now it could be a mixture of dark and light. We just got the salt, so that's all it's going to be, the dark salt. Some rice wine vinegar, some oyster sauce, a teaspoon? Yeah, teaspoon of salt, peppercorns, like I said, 50 grams of peppercorns. I think that's just about it. Oh, a bit of grated ginger, but that's in the freezer at the moment. We'll bring that out when we need it. Oh, and some Chinese rice wine. If you obviously don't have rice wine, a bit of dry sherry, or in our case, a bit of white wine. All right. So that's what you're going to need. So the peppercorns, like I said, at the moment are soaking. The rice, we'll want to rinse our rice off and drain that, and that will go in the microwave cooker. But that only takes about 15 minutes to cook, so we'll put that on near the end. Now this isn't a hugely laborious dish, okay, but before we start frying everything off, we want to do our chicken and get it in a bowl with various ingredients and then chill it in the fridge for about a quarter of an hour or so. So we'll crack on with the chicken bit. Okay, well actually before I start chopping up the chicken, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by chopping up my onion and my garlic, and then I can chop up this on the board. I don't need to get another board. So what we want to do with that onion is we just want to thinly slice it, okay, and that's all it needs to be. our garlic. We're just going to sort of roughly chop up. Ooh, try to have my finger there. So the garlic will be roughly chopped. Okay, and then we'll do the chicken. Okay, so you could, if you like, you don't actually have to use chicken breast for this. You could use chicken thighs, but whatever you use, just going to cut it up into chunks. Okay. You could, I suppose, you could almost do it sort of almost sort of like half thighs or something like that. But it depends really just how you want it cooked. But we're going to do it in chunks like that. Okay. So the next step is to effectively give them a coating. Okay, so for that you're going to want a bowl. Let me just get this out of the way for a moment. Okay, so in that bowl we're going to put into that the corn flour I mentioned earlier, just like bloody icing sugar. Goes bloody everywhere. Not quite as bad as icing sugar, but it's bad enough. Okay. Actually, I made a bit of a mess earlier with flour and icing sugar, and tomorrow I'm going to make an even bigger mess with icing sugar. So tomorrow, if you're lucky, you can catch my my macaron, my different macaron recipe. But anyway, so the corn flour's gone in there. We then got an egg white. In that goes egg white. We also want white pepper. In that goes. You season that. And so cornstarch, egg white. All right, soy sauce. So soy sauce, you want a tablespoon of teaspoon of soy sauce. Okay. There you go, a teaspoon. And then we want some sesame oil. I've got the toasted variety, don't really matter. And we want a teaspoon of that. Right, in that goes. Just get that out of the way, really. Now we're going to be wanting some of these sauces for actually making the sauce. Right, but what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to give these a bit of a mix together. Remember, with corn flour, the harder you try, the stiffer it becomes. Right. I used to always say that example of a Newtonian fluid, but apparently I don't think that's right, is it? I don't know. I need my science colleagues on that one. So I'm just going to try and obviously blend them in together, which is not the easiest thing to do with that corn flour. And then what we will do is we'll then chuck that meat in there, give it a good mix around so the meat's all nice and coated, and then that will go in the fridge to chill for a bit. So let me get that all mixed in. Right, so I've already chucked the chicken in, okay, and I've given it a bit of good old toss around. I have to get the tossing in, and I also have to get in to don't tell the dwarves. If I don't do that, the wife says to me, "You didn't mention the dwarves." I mean, I'm trying to be politically correct here. I would like to point out this is a reference to the Lord of the Rings. Alright? Best film ever. Do have issues with certain bits, but you know, best one yet, as in interpretation of it. Thinking about getting the UHD version. It's expensive at the minute. Anyway, that aside, so that's the chicken coated. So that's going to go in the fridge, and then the next thing we're going to want to do, just before I put that in the fridge, we're going to want some new oil. I haven't opened it yet. We're going to want some oil in there, deep enough to fry off the basil leaves. Now, I'm not going to put that load in there, and then we'll just do a bit at a time anyway. So what I'm going to do is put that on, get that up to temperature. Whee! And then chicken will go in the fridge, and when that's up temperature we'll start cooking the basil. Okay, so I've checked the temperature of the oil. It's up to about 165. Now, I've not done this before, but apparently this may spit. Does it buggery? Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck some of these leaves in here. Okay, we're going to do them in batches, and then I've got some kitchen towel here, so that as I get them out we will stick them on there just to let them obviously drain off of the oil. Now this has just come up to 165, getting up to 170, and that is doing bugger all. So I'm going to ignore what it says about temperature, whack the temperature up, and it's just simply a matter now then of getting these crispy. We don't want them burning. Alright, you don't get the beer too close. And then we'll transfer them off, and they will go in at the very end, sort of scattered. So it's just a matter of just keeping them somewhere. I anticipate that this could take some time. So I will get myself a top up. You can go and get yourself a top up, or whatever you're doing right now. Obviously you're sitting watching this, you better bloody well be doing. Alright? I know what's going on. So when these are all cooked off, okay, I'll come back to you with when we then cook the chicken off. So the chicken's chilling. These are sort of soggy in. Alright? I just thought so that you see that when you actually remember to check, I'm just standing back, because these bastards do spit. When I was busy telling you, look, the bugger all happening, why didn't any of you tell me the bloody gas gone out? So that's why I wasn't doing anything. The bloody thing was dropping temperature. So turn the gas back on, turn it back up, and then it does spit. It does stop up a little bit, but you might want to obviously just be careful of that. I don't want to get my lovely shirt ruined, don't I? If I know you can do it like that, I'll put my apron on. Just be wary of that. If the oil is actually on the heat and you can hear it, the little bastards do spit. Okay, so that's the basil crispened off. I'm just going to put that over there on that towel to dry off, and let me assure you that when that bastard spits, it bloody spits. Those will be bloody wet. Alright, you suddenly see, oh look, there's oil over there. Oh look, just found oil over there. It's everywhere. Right, so now what we want to do is actually let that oil get a little bit hotter, and then we take our chicken, and what we're going to do is we're again going, and this time it'll have to be smaller batches, and it's going to take quite a while. What we're going to do, where do we think go? Oh, all in there. We're going to take our chicken, toss it in the oil, okay, and then we're just going to deep fry off our chicken in batches, okay, when it's cooked. So we're cooking it for about what, well, basically cooking it till the meat's just about cooked. Till it's just about cooked, okay. Then I'm going to transfer it out to a bowl. And just turn it over. Obviously, if you've got, almost like a deep fat fryer, you won't need to turn it. But because I've only got like an inch of oil in there, I'm just turning it to make sure it's all evenly coated. So all we want to do at this stage is go through, just cook the chicken, remove it, and then we start preparing the sauce, as it were, and the chicken will go back in at the end Like I said, the crispy basil leaves, we sprinkle them over at the end, as it were. Okay, so that is just about, well, it is. This is the chicken all cooked off. I'm just going to turn the heat down a minute. I'll double check I turned it off like I did last time. Now, we don't need all this oil in the pan. We only want about a tablespoonful, because what we're going to do next is, that's the wife down out of the bath now, stop being the mermaid. She's now in there, and at the minute she's watching Tower Inferno. I'll just tell you a story about Tower Inferno. But what I'm going to do, and if you're lucky, I might tell you about Tower Inferno when I watched it the very first time. It was like first out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of some of this oil. Now, it would be nice to keep that oil because it's got a bit of flavour in it, but it's obviously got a lot of the corn flour and everything, so I'll just sort of see how I go. Alright, so let me just sort that out, and then we'll start getting the final stuff all done so we can eat. Right, so got about a tablespoon or so of oil left in there. We'll switch to the wine now because the wife's on the wine, so she won't drink the whole bottle on her own, which she could, but we have to sort of like accompany her so she doesn't realise how much she's drinking. So I've switched to the wine, and also the benefit of that is I've got some beers left for tomorrow. Right, even though it's school night. Who cares? We're not going anywhere. So I've got a few cloves of garlic, like I said, roughly chopped. I've got an onion thinly sliced, and I've just drained off my green peppercorns. So we're going to get the oil up to temperature. Now, whilst you were doing whatever, I've grated some fresh ginger, about a tablespoon of fresh ginger, and that will go in the sauce. So we're going to start by frying them 3 ingredients, and then we start adding in the sauce ingredients and cook it all through, and then when it's ready, that chicken will go back in there, coat it in the sauce, get it all back up temperature, and then that's when we're ready to serve. So I'm going to put on the rice in the microwave because it takes about 15 minutes, and it needs to stand for a bit anyway. So I'm waiting on that. I'll put the rice on, and then we'll come back when we start cooking it. The oil's just about temperature, so I'm going to put my garlic in. I'll put my onion in. Get in there. I'm just going to give that a little mix through in the oil, because then green peppercorns probably split. So I was telling you about the Tower Inferno. At the time, the local cinema, well, so at the time, I mean, it had previously been like one big, as they were, cinema. But they've gone through a process of splitting it into 3. So it was a bit weird, because you had your main cinema. I think there was 2 before. I think that was what it was 2. There was your main cinema, but the second cinema they split into 2, and they sort of split it a third, and 2/3. And the 2/3 was just like a second cinema, and the third they done out with a bit like you get nowadays, nice big plush armchairs, although they weren't so plush back there in the 60s and 70s, but they were plush for the 60s and 70s. And so they made them out. I'm just going to turn that temperature up a little bit. So we're just going to cook that through, okay? So that was classed as the adult theatre, not because it showed adult films, because they didn't do things like that. They obviously showed X-rated films, but it was basically classed as the adult film simply because instead of the old standard cinema chairs, we had proper armchairs. So there's me and my mate off to see Tower Inferno at its release. That was back in the day with the big films. You queued up to get in, and no online booking or anything like that. And then it was full, and you'd all be there. And they go, right, we've got room for 2. Have we got a 2? No, we're a 3. Can we go? No, there's only 2 seats left. 2 together, So anyway, we go to get in, gets up, paid. Right, because obviously we were school kids at the time. We were old enough to see the film. Actually, must have been well enough. Oh, that was right now. because I never got away with anything at my age. This is my lovely boy shoes. So she goes, right, you're going in the adult, Peter. If you start jumping on them seats, you're out. And I'm thinking, I want to see the bloody film. I don't want to sit and jump on bloody seats, do I? Didn't say that. She never said that in them days because you've been thrown out straight away. So we went in there, saw it, and then of course there was no spoilers really in them days. You know, there might be if your mate had seen it first, but it was quite rare in them days. Not like now where everybody goes on and the first thing they do is straight on Facebook and tell everybody what's happening. And then, spoiler alert, but it is an old film, so I'm sure you must know, he dies, and it's like, they killed him off. So yeah, so that was my story about seeing Sharon Turner. She just tried to tell me in the background earlier when I said about that, she said, I think we watched that together. It's the first time I saw it was with you. I don't know. First time I saw it, I was at school. Right, so we're just going to cook these through, okay? And then in a minute we're going to start adding the sauce ingredients. Right, so now we start assembling the sauce. So sesame oil, we want, we want 2 teaspoons of sesame oil, 1, 2. And then we want some 2 teaspoons of soy sauce. Now, if you're mixing the two, it's 1 teaspoon of dark sauce, 1 teaspoon of light sauce. Right, and we want a teaspoon of sugar. Back to sound effects for you. A tablespoon of grated ginger. Okay, in that goes. Rice wine vinegar, we want a teaspoon of that. A bit more than that. And then, I think it's tablespoons or anything else. So a tablespoon of Chinese rice wine. Don't look at the label. Right. So a tablespoon of that, in that goes. That's that done. Done the sesame oil. So we've done sesame oil. So the last thing is some oyster sauce. Now this is a bit thicker and we want 2 tablespoons of that. So we might end up with a bit more than that. 1, 2, right? And the problem with that is it stays in there. So we just give it a little bit of a helping hand. And now I've got all my peppercorns in there. Now, final thing is, we just give that a quick little mix. Final thing is, we want about 100 odd mils, 125 mils of either stock or water. All right. So in that goes, and we just mix that through, and now we just want to get it hot. All right. Okay. So this has just come up to a simmer. So we're going to let this simmer for about 3 minutes. You may also notice the noise in the background. That's the microwave rice going on. I did tell you earlier I was going to do that earlier, and then I started doing all this and thought, like I forgot. So the rice is on, but that's all right because it's still 10 minutes of the rice and we're not quite there yet. Because like I say, we want to bring this to a simmer and then let it simmer for about 3 or 4 minutes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take all that chicken and chuck it back in there, toss it all around in there, and then cook it through until it's absorbed all that sauce and thick it up a little bit. And then, like I said, we're going to serve that with that rice. Okay. If you knew what you were doing, I don't know what you're doing really. You do eat it obviously in chopsticks. We ain't. Because I've faffed around for too long, and I can't pick all bloody rice up and stuff like that. Chopsticks, you can't even pick up a big lump. Ping them everywhere. So we're going to eat it with a spoonful. We're just waiting on that to cook for a few more minutes, and then we'll chuck in the chicken. Right, so we're ready for the chicken. So in goes the chicken. Just get rid of that. That's all right. And like I say, now what we want to do is that we just now, without splashing everything over, okay, we're now just going to toss that around in there, get it all nicely coated, and then continue heating it because we obviously want the sauce to thicken and coat the chicken a bit better. Alright, so rice is still cooking, which is fine because so was this. So we're not far off now. Obviously that's the last of it. The final bit will be when we divide this up into some bowls. We take some of our crispy, you can't really see that, some of our, they go transparent, well I say transparent, well they go transparent, they're just green anyway. We sprinkle some of them around the outside of it. I'm going to put a little pot of rice next to it, so it's up to you whether you want your rice with it. So really, we're almost there now. I haven't said that for a while, have I? I don't think. We're almost there now. So, by the next time I think I'll catch you up, will be serving time. Right, so rice done. So we're going to dish up the green peppercorn chicken. Okay. While I finish just putting that in there, let's have a little taster. Now I did actually have one earlier, and these green peppercorns and I'll make it really peppery. So very nice. Got the tang from the vinegar I presume. And then you got the heat from the green peppercorns. Ooh. So that is your green peppercorn chicken. Oh, I haven't put my crispy basil on, but that's because I haven't finished plating out. I'll just sprinkle some of them on. Nothing special, but we go a bit garnish.